Lanka's economic downturn has triggered protests in the capital. Last week, violent mobs tried to storm the president's office. They were eventually repelled by armed policemen. But the message was sent. Public discontent against the Lankan government is growing. As a result, the president has announced a new set of measures.
A sea of people have descended on Colombo. Their slogans fill the air. Banners, loudspeakers, flags. This has all the makings of a people's revolution. After months of economic hardships, patience is running out. Sri Lanka's finances are going from bad to worse. Power cuts are common. Fuel is too expensive, and ration lines are getting longer. Sri Lankans have decided enough is enough.
There is no medicine in the pharmacy, no cement, no food, no drink, no milk powder to give to the children.
These protesters know exactly who to blame. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. He came to power in 2019. Since then, Sri Lanka's foreign reserves have tumbled. Almost 70% of it has been wiped out. No foreign reserves, no money for imports.
This government came to power and only created an era of queues. When the mother goes to the kitchen to cook a meal, the cost of food is too high.
How did things get so bad? It's a combination of many factors, sort of like a perfect storm. Historically, Lankan governments have been weak at fiscal management. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa was more of the same. His tax cuts were ill-timed. So was his obsession with making Lankan agriculture 100% organic. In the end, both moves backfired. The final nail in the coffin was the COVID-19 pandemic. Tourism dried up along with foreign remittances. Soon, Sri Lanka's reserves started to drop. By the end of 2021, it had $1.6 billion left, barely enough to cover 1 month's import. As imports tightened, the people felt the pinch. Gas prices started shooting up, and food shortages became common.
It is very difficult for the people to live today. Even the wealthy are finding it difficult. An ordinary person cannot even think of making a living income. The Rajapaksas only think about their own family. Nobody has suffered like this. They only have one trump card, and that is racism.
This time, the protests have reached the president's office. It's an impressive building near the sea and once housed the Legislative Council of British Ceylon. Today, it's the site of a rebellion. The protesters have started a bonfire on the road. Nearby, armed police stand ready for deployment. Soon, they come to blows. With batons and tear gas, the cops push back. The protesters retreat for now, but their message has been heard. The very next day, President Gotabaya announces new measures.
Yesterday's discussion with the International Monetary Fund was also held for this purpose. Through those discussions, we hope to find a way to pay off our annual loan installments, sovereign bonds and so on. Subsequent to my discussions with the International Monetary Fund, I have decided to work with them after examining the advantages and disadvantages.
A big U-turn by the government. Until now, they had resisted reaching out to the IMF. They preferred bilateral helplines, a $1.5 billion currency swap with China and a $1 billion credit line from India. Now, there's been a rethink. But why was Gotabaya reluctant in the first place? He believes the IMF will undermine Sri Lanka's sovereignty. That never stopped Colombo before. In the last 56 years, they have sought IMF relief 16 times. second only to Pakistan. Sri Lanka's economy is a long tale of bad policies, poor planning and systemic corruption. It took burning effigies and mass protests to jolt the government into action. But an IMF bailout is a short-term fix. What Sri Lanka needs is a complete reboot. South Asia Bureau, WION World is One.